What's up, guys? Brenton here with Vortex Detailing, mobile auto detailing business based out of Oregon City, Oregon. You know, I was sitting here polishing away on this thing, and I got to thinking. And you know what happens when I get to thinking? I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll make a little tubulator vid. I wanted to show you guys my polishing setup. This is how I keep things simple. This is how I polish quickly and efficiently while still achieving professional results. Very, very simple. I use two machines oftentimes. If I don't need two machines, I use one machine. And what machine would I prefer to use? The rotary. There's a big common misconception out there, and the misconception is that you want to finish with a dual action polisher, or beginners should start with a dual action polisher. And as somebody who did start using a dual action polisher when I first started polishing, I will tell you right now, it's all false information. Pick up a rotary as soon as you can and get to work. I'm going to show you how fast and how simple this is. I've already taken my DA. I'll just show you real quick. This is a Milwaukee DA. I decided to use this machine today to cut. So there was a few really heavy scratches in here. A lot of stuff that's through the clear coat, through the paint, stuff that's not going to be fixed without a touch-up pen, but nonetheless stuff that we could blend in ever so slightly and make it much less visible to the eye. So before I even started to do my one step, if you will, because that's really what's going on here today, I just want to hit some of these deeper scratches, and then I want to blend everything in with my rotary and just kind of finish it out. So I went over all the hard scratches with this. Now before that, preparation is the most vital thing when it comes to polishing paint. To prep this vehicle, obviously I washed it, I clay barred it, and I used a demineralizer. Iron and rust decontamination is great. Use an iron remover, use a clay bar, and then use a demineralizer. A demineralizer will help remove those minerals from those water spots that might be on the surface. That way, when you go to polish, you're not just digging those minerals deeper into the surface. So you really need to try to remove as much of that as you can with a chemical before you go ahead and start polishing the paint. A lot of guys, they're going to use 5, 6 pads, polishing pads, and they'll use one pad like this. They'll polish a panel, they'll throw it away, they'll get a new pad. I can use this one pad to polish about 6, 7, 8 cars. And the reason for that is that I keep my pad clean. After every pass, you'll notice that I clean my pad. So now that the panel's prepped and everything else, I'm gonna go ahead and polish this panel. But first, it's got a little dust on it and stuff, and keeping a clean working space is really the most vital thing when it comes to this if you want great results. And then, of course, understanding what you're doing, understanding the machine, understanding the pad, understanding the polish that you're using. So I'm just going to give this a quick wipe with my rinseless wash. This is 2 gallons of water with 2 capfuls, which is 1 ounce of rinseless wash. Pretty much every rinseless wash product is going to be exactly the same. So I've already done, like I said, the cutting phase of this. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my rotary and I'm going to plow through this door. And I'm not going to worry about checking my work until I'm totally done. But you'll just pay attention to what I do here, and you'll see how simple this is. Got my pad. I don't know if you can see it. Let me pick this up. This is my pad washer 4000. All right. This is a big deal right here. Filled it up with rinseless wash, same dilution ratios that's in my bucket here. I just go ahead and when you push down on it, it squirts the rinseless into the pad. You run it around a little bit, and then you shake it out, basically. I would like to point out here that when using a rotary with the pad washer, this combination, when you go ahead and sling the rest of the rinseless wash or whatever liquid you're using out of the machine, oftentimes you're not going to get that pad dry enough to start polishing. So there's 2 things you can do. You can do what you see me do in this video, which is kind of smear the polish around really slowly before I start. Or the better thing to do would just be to keep a towel close by, and you can dab out that remaining moisture on the pad. Now this is not the same at the dual action, because the dual action is oscillating. It's a lot more violent of a movement, and when you go to wring that thing out, it dries pretty dang quick. And you have a nice fresh clean pad for each pass. I take my product here, which in this instance I'm using a DIY's Gold Standard polish. I love this polish. It's a one polish does all. So one spray of product, that's all you need. You never need more than that. one spray of polish. I also like this on a spray bottle. And I will also mention that I am only using one polish to cut and finish. The only thing that I do is change my pad and or my machine. One polish for everything, whether it's the gold standard polish by DIY Detail or whether it's Ceram X by Clearcoat Solutions. Just want to kind of rub my polish around a little bit so I don't sling it around everywhere. Alright guys, I am talking through this, but to spare your ears from the obnoxious noise that the machine is making right into the microphone, I'm just going to do a voiceover. Let's talk about what I'm doing here. Speed 1 on the machine. This is going to go the same for pretty much any machine, whether it's battery powered or corded. And you always want to keep your pad flat to the surface. Now typically I like to work in a 2x2 section, which is basically shoulder width apart, but obviously you see me here going the full distance of the door, and in this case being where we're at on the panel, this is a good rule of thumb to just do the whole section here at the top, and then you can section it out however you'd like on the more flat surfaces for sure. But I do recommend keeping your working area small. And another thing I really want you to notice is that I'm not really doing anything. Is all I'm doing is holding and guiding the machine. I'm not applying any pressure whatsoever. You know, when you're cutting, pressure is circumstantial, but typically even when you're cutting, you don't really need to apply pressure. You just need to get your variables correct, whether it be pad and or polish. So get those variables right, and you shouldn't really have to work at this. You just let the machine do what the machine is supposed to do, along with the pad and the polish you're using. Now what I'm going to do, bring my pad, and before I add any more polish, I'm just going to go over this again. Now I just want to emphasize that this step right here is not necessary. I don't do it every single time. I only do it when I feel like the beads that I had laid down on the previous pass, which typically ends up being around these sort of curves and angles, isn't perfect. And so I go over it one more time lightly just to make sure that that bead that I've laid down is really nice and uniform. Some people may have heard of this being referred to as jeweling, which is like a finishing for your finishing polish. It just kind of enhances crisp clarity, gloss, really brings out that depth and that gloss. Again, not necessary. Typically you can achieve pretty much the same result with just one pass, or on your first attempt. You don't need to go over it again like this. It's just something that I like to do every now and again. This is a non-diminishing polish or non-diminishing abrasive. So if you add a little bit of water, it's just going to draw out that work time, make it longer. Now this time I'm just half throttling that trigger. I'm just barely touching that trigger. I don't have it locked on. And I'm just going over this ever so lightly, just to get a nice even bead, essentially, like that. So this looks it's all even, it's all looking really sharp. Do it one more time down here. Now, not everybody's going to do this, and you don't really need to do this. This is just a little extra step that I like to take when I'm doing one steps. So now that my pad is already basically clean, I'm just going to go ahead and add more polish to it here, because I just cleaned it. And I'm just going to come on down here and do the same exact thing all the way down the door. You'll want to try to make sure you're doing 50% overlaps whenever you move the machine, so cover 50% of what you previously went over at least. And then also slow and steady wins the race. This is sped up right here, but this is a slow and steady process. Take your time and be consistent for the best results. You may have heard the term or the phrase, slow is fast and fast is slow. The more you try to rush this process, the slower you're going to go, because you're going to be going over things and redoing things that you didn't need to do if you just did it right and took your time the first time. Clean my pad. Do that same process.
Now, I like to clean my pad after every single pass. Again, this is something that's not 100% necessary, especially when you're finishing. Now, if you're cutting, yes, you're going to want to clean your pad after every single pass, but when you're finishing, you really don't need to. You could finish the whole entire panel before you clean your pad, and it's just personal preference. I like to keep my pad nice and lubricated, nice and moist, just to make sure that that pad is gliding just the way that it should. A damp pad always performs better than a dry pad, especially when you're cutting. Having a damp pad increases obviously the lubrication and the way that the machine moves about the panel, but it also softens up the pad itself and it makes it more versatile and soft. So it's more pliable. It's able to curve around edges and move with the panel much better when it's slightly damp over being dry. I'd also like to touch on going in a crosshatch pattern or, straight back and forth, straight up and down. This doesn't matter really so much when you're polishing paint. Now, if you're polishing aluminum, maybe, but if you're polishing paint, you can go in any direction you want. If I'm going in a crosshatch pattern, I always prefer to finish in the direction that the panel is going, which would be from left to right. It just seems to give me a better finish that way. Even when I'm cutting, if I'm cutting, I go up and down, left and right, but I'll always finish my pass going from left to right with the panel. Now, one more thing I want to touch on in this video, and then we can save the rest for another video. You'll notice that I don't have anything taped off. Well, I don't need to tape off black trim with this polish because this polish is safe on black trim, and in fact is what I end up doing is just polishing all the black trim as I polish the panel. With this polish, this combination, I can literally polish every surface
I
of the
already did this
car.
back panel here. It turned out really nice. And I'm sure this is going to turn out just as well. This is almost really just a one-size-fits-all polishing system. Doesn't matter what you're working on. It just works. You guys can look at my results. You guys can see my work. So now I've wiped it down with my rinseless wash. I'm also going to take a panel prep to it just to kind of make sure I get all that residue off of there so I can really see my results. Rinseless wash works good, but sometimes you'll leave some smears or some streaks behind, and sometimes you might look at that and think, oh shoot, that's DA haze, or that's, rotary haze, when it's really just residue left over from wiping the polish away, and you just didn't get that surface clean enough before you checked your work. It can look all marred out and everything. I'll try to show you guys some of these really deep scratches and stuff that we were really trying to chase and diminish. Like I say, we can, to the average eye, make this look perfect, basically, in most lighting. And that's what's important here. This isn't a show car. There is definitely some of these random isolated deep scratches left over. Otherwise, I can already tell this is just looking way better. All right. Okay, guys. Well, pretty sure you can tell. I know it might be hard on the camera, but this paint looks perfect. It's absolutely even. It's very clear and crisp and glossy. And it looks the way that it's supposed to look, right? Now let's check this other door here. I don't know if you can see that. There's like watermarks and streaks in that.
Now, hopefully at the beginning of the video, you saw those deep scratches I tried to show you. Well, you can't see them at all anymore. They're totally invisible to the eye. Now, they're not there, but you cannot see them anymore.
Thing looks good. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this one. That'll do it. Hope you learned something. If you're a beginner detail, remember what I said at the beginning of this, don't get fear-mongered, don't get scared out of trying to use a rotary to start your journey detailing. Can it be more dangerous than a dual action polisher? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, it can be more dangerous, especially if you're wearing loose clothing and something you want to think about. You don't want to be wearing loose, baggy clothing or jewelry or anything like that. You get something tangled up in your rotary, you're going to go for a ride, all right? Whereas a dual action is much more forgiving. Dual action polisher is exactly what it sounds like. It's spinning on 2 axes. Rotary spinning on 1 single axis. Dual action polisher is oscillating. It's going in all sorts of different direction when it turns, which is also what makes it harder to finish down, in my personal opinion, because there is so much movement and vibration in that pad. Also, the pad stops spinning on angles that aren't absolutely proper to that machine. Whereas a rotary, that thing just keeps moving. It just keeps working, which is also partially why it might be more dangerous too. So it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop spinning or stall on you if you hit an angle that it doesn't like, right? Whereas a dual action polisher will do that. So is there some fail safes with a dual action polisher? Absolutely. But are you going to get better results with a dual action polisher? I've yet to see it. I've been doing this for quite a long time. So that's my opinion on it. I'm going to stick to it until proven otherwise. And I'm going to keep busting this out, finish this car up real quick, and have another happy client. So thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to the Instagram page at vortex_detailing. Subscribe to the YouTube page, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this situation, about this matter or subject. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. God bless you.